the value of one hire. One person just came. She was able to install the new funnel. It added 150K months into company revenue after the 6 months, after 9 months.
What was the most amount of revenue you were making with the agency?
480.
480K per month.
Right.
Nice. How many employees was that?
Probably 120, somewhere around that.
Okay. How long did it take you from starting the agency to get to that point?
3 years, I think.
I mean, That's super fast. Good morning, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm sitting today with Stan Sakharchuk, who also runs a large software development agency. Thanks for taking the time to sit with me today. Welcome back to Dubai. You've just come back to Dubai last week. How are you finding everything?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's definitely a very interesting and nice city. I like the energy. Like, you just come here, you want to be active, you want to do sports, you want to do all these kind of things. It's pretty nice. Very, very good people around you as well.
Yeah, makes a big difference having the sun and the outdoor lifestyle, right, for your business and for every aspect of your life.
Yeah, we were discussing this part that like oftentimes you cannot overgrow your personal development in business, and that essentially it often stops certain businesses from growing. And through these cycles of our company, I definitely felt that as well.
Great. So the reason I wanted to sit with you today is because you've had massive success with your software development agency. I think it'd be interesting to go through how you scaled, because you scaled very quickly. At the height of it, what was the most amount of revenue you were making with the agency?
480.
480K per month.
Right.
Nice. How many employees was that?
Probably 120, somewhere around that.
Okay. How long did it take you from starting the agency to get to that point?
3 years, I think.
I mean, That's super fast.
3 to 4 years. I think actually 3, but it's one thing to get there. The second thing is to sustain there. And in our case, like we were never able to like properly sustain at this level. So we were constantly like going back down, like slightly lower, and then coming back up, and then slightly lower, and like we are repeating this cycle. So we did several concrete mistakes that I know about and I can talk about, I think, can share, that I think were the reason for these things happening in the first place. But yeah, like it's obviously, it's also about like the structure, the type of projects that we were getting on, type of technologies even that we were working with. Because like, if I would be starting the agency today, I would choose like some old stuff like .NET, Java, just work with like companies that are on the market for 20 plus years and things like that, just to have higher lifetime value, higher retention, and just work with the businesses that know how to transfer coding into revenue.
Yeah, we focus on that a lot, employee retention and client retention. It's kept us stable, but I haven't been able to scale anywhere near as fast or as large as you to like 500K per month. So you mentioned there you've ran into some challenges, and I know we've spoken about it before. It's around hiring and staff and stuff like that. What are the biggest challenges that have kept you from keeping that consistent and growing further past that? Yeah,
I would say in our case, I would say in any business, as the way I essentially see this is like, first, the most important thing is sales. And I would say in our business, like lead generation and funnels, they are way more important than sales. Because if you think about that, like selling in software dev, it's kind of like commodity in a certain way, because you can just get a good engineer on the call and he'll probably do all right? But funnels, I would say like this is the most important thing out there. And second thing in any business is hiring. Like Bill Gates once said that like, I'm just the biggest paid HR in the whole world. So at a certain point of time of the growth of Microsoft, I think what he was doing, he was just sitting there and just being on the call, trying to hire the best people from the market. So in our case, I would say that we largely were not successful in hiring and taking certain risks that we should not. For example, we had cases where we were hiring a COO for the company just after the first call. So like we had just one call with the person and we were like sending the offer or offering to work for our company on the second one, right? So it was like these mishires that we were doing from time to time. We were definitely younger, and some people they were definitely taking advantage of us, just people who pretty much just had more experience working in the corporate structure, and we're quite young, so like we did not have this type of experience. Like I could not imagine that some people can like imply some politics into the company, they can like, I don't know, like lie somewhere and things like that. So I would say this cornerstone for us was definitely like hiring and management, obviously, because many people that we were hiring, they probably were good initially. Just that for the way that we were managing them, that everything was like so kind of, like easy, and we were not catching on things much. Like it was in a way where we did not have like a proper strong management in the company, because we just thought that we might not need it in the first place, right? Because we kind of just trusted people and things like that. So obviously these are our mistakes over time as well, that at certain points of times where we were starting to make like shit ton of money, we were starting to make stupid investments, both in the company and in crypto markets as well.
Nice. There's actually a great book on that, Hired to Quit, which I found very useful, by Craig Headley. He's part of one of the business groups we're in. And he effectively has a 1,000 employee team out in Mexico. They're a call center and stuff like that. And he incentivizes everyone to meet certain metrics. It's super complex going from a team of 10 to 100. The challenges are huge. Getting people that can effectively manage their teams is super, super strenuous. So yeah, I completely understand. And when you're growing at that speed, you don't have time to put the time into hiring and stuff like that. But I think you're right. If you look at like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, they focus on building quality teams, and that's effectively what makes a company, right?
Yeah, in our case, it was quite interesting because I would say that we were exhausting our like internal resource at a certain point of time, and instead of like taking the vacation, which is I think is very, very important for entrepreneurs, and it's often like neglected, or like just having some time for ourselves, we were adopting this idea. Let's hire someone so they will do all the work, and we would have like nothing to do. And like 2 times it pretty much almost led to us like dying as a company, right? So we had like bad situations. We had like situations where the salaries are on the 10th of the month, and on the 1st of the month we just don't have money in the bank to pay the salaries as well. So it was kind of this evasion problem, I would say, and hiring and mismanagement, because I'm a huge fan of environments where you can get even like, let's say, an average person on his role into, and just because of the environment, because of the process, because of the setup, because of the management, he will actually do well. I'm a huge fan of the setups like this. Unfortunately, in our case, oftentimes, even with like average, I would say even with slightly like better people than average coming to us, they were becoming like, too, like they were decreasing the work standards due to, I would say, mismanagement out there. That probably was one of the like greatest things in terms of the things that we were doing. And if I would come back into that situation like right now, what I would do, I would not hire like this amount of managers. I would just try to push as far as I can just by myself, keeping all the profits, making sure that I have control over everything that's happening, and mostly just try to push people from the inside on the manager roles out there. And if I'm hiring someone, just one person, just make sure that like he's good, fire fast as well, like talk about stuff that you don't like right away. So yeah, these things, they might be basic, but these were the things that really screwed us up at a certain point of time.
The things you neglected, yeah. Hire slow, fire fast is a term I hear quite often, which works quite well. So what are the things that really went well for you as a company? What technologies are you working on? What apps have you built? I know you've been in the healthcare industry and that's worked quite well for you. Could you talk to that?
Yeah, so I'm an iOS engineer in the first place, the same as my business partner. So it was kind of natural for us to kick off with the app development agency. We were kicking off around 2018, 2019, and it was a very, very nice time on the market for things like that, because there were way more, I would say the wave of interest into the app development was growing up. I remember a bunch of requests to develop an Uber-like text application. Probably was like one thing that like pumped in the market at the time, and everyone wanted to build like a clone of Uber, right? So we definitely we were able to catch this market because I think present companies at the time, they just did not develop into the direction of this technology. But that also was the barrier, the ceiling that we could not jump over, because with apps, like we were not able to find sustainable clients with nice retainers. And the first time when we grew from, I think like around 13, 14K months to like 30 and then to 80, because for some reason we jumped to 80 very quickly, was because we added web development into the equation. So we started to build like web stuff, naturally larger, bigger projects. And that's why I'm saying that like the choice of technology is very important. Like if I would be kicking off like currently, I would probably focus more like on .NET and Java, just because of the fact that like projects they are like for multiple years.
Yeah.
People have different attitude to them. It's very different, like build some application, some like mobile app or like Node.js web application. It's way different essentially from there. So then we expanded into the web. Then the COVID came and we lost a bunch of clients. And the way we were able to survive was we switched to healthcare. So we started to build a bunch of healthcare products. Certain legislations that were present and that were in place, they essentially at the time, they were diminished. Something like the doctor could not do diagnosis via a phone call before COVID, and after COVID, he did have an option to do so. So telemedicine applications, they became like we also got a bunch of requests, and we were working on a bunch of them. So kind of like we were staying afloat and I would say even growing to the point of time with the help of the switch into the healthcare, right? And then we opened up a new funnel. So over time, we grew to 150K with one main funnel that we had. And through the second funnel, we jumped to like 300K, I think like 5-6 months later, which was pretty insane. And again, the value of one hire. One person just came. She was able to install the new funnel. It added 150K months into company revenue after the 6 months, after 6-9 months, after she essentially came into the company, which is pretty insane. Like it's not like default. Like again, like I do think that most valuable skill set in our type of business is funnels, building the funnels. And then we got that, and by the end of the year, we got that to 480, right? And when there was an end of the bull run, 2021, 2022 in blockchain, a bunch of people got rich with crypto. They were looking to spend the money on something and build products in general. So we kind of picked up that niche as well. This was the thing that partially also saved us through the time where we hired a bunch of managers and the company was very, very ineffective. But we were also like drawing money from like these new projects. So it definitely something that helped us to stay afloat, because to the point of time we had like COO, CFO, head of sales, head of delivery. These guys, their salaries, they were not small, right? And the company, like we were a 3-year-old company. We did not need like all these people. They were installing processes that were working in the companies with 500 employees. Like they had nothing to do with our size of the company, and they were quite disconnected from that point of view. But this was our desire to want to like stop working or have some rest, or like this idea that I want the company to grow by itself and just do nothing, things like that, which screwed us up first time. Unfortunately, second time, the same thing happened, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, so you raised funnels there as being the most important aspect of our business, and I completely agree. You have funnels and delivery. Both, I think, are equally as important, but without the funnel, you don't have any sales coming in. So what are you doing for funnels now that is working really well? I know you guys do LinkedIn, you do the marketplaces as well, like Upwork. What else are you doing, and what's been successful? What would you recommend?
Yeah, I would say mostly LinkedIn is the one that's working for us. We are getting some referrals and like previous clients returning as well. Website, we've been working on the website for quite some time. SEO, like inbound, writing articles. Like we started to get some requests on it recently, but yeah, it's pretty random. Despite the fact like one thing is funnels, and you mentioned this stuff with delivery, which I think is very, very important as well. I'm just saying in terms of how common this skill is on the marketplace. There are a bunch of engineers, there are a bunch of good engineers. There is very few people who can build funnels. We had people leaving our company, like managers, for example. They were trying to start their own company. Most of them, they were not successful. The only maybe one or two that were actually successful, we started in a smaller company like this. They knew the funnel. this was essentially the core skill, because in the niche, like everyone can know, like learn like sales in a way, like you can hire devs or learn it yourself and things like that. So coming back to different funnels, you obviously have different competitors depending on the funnel. Like on marketplaces, all have like a bunch of competition out there. LinkedIn is a bit different because you still have a bunch of competitors there, but it's more about nurturing, building out the relationship with the lead. So if you would essentially create a timeline of how many salespeople, lead generation specialists in different companies are building relationship with a specific lead, you would vividly imagine and see that like there are very few that are at a good pace, I would say. So most, they just send one or two message and then they get tired, they go to something else. But the thing I wanted to say about SEO and inbound in our business, I know the company, they have like 500 plus employees. They're based in San Francisco on the West Coast. And the only funnel that they have is website SEO. They have like a team of 20 tech copywriters. They invest into this thing specifically. And the reason I like it, and the reason I think if, for example, our business would be seen as like by someone to buy it, we would probably be getting way less multiplier than them, because our funnels are easier to replicate and we have more competition. Because them, they are specifically invest in this funnel. They are on the first page of Google, and they're taking like a vast majority, I would say, of these type of leads from the market. And this is the only thing that they invest in. And the beauty of this thing is that the more you invest into this thing with the website, with SEO, the higher for the competition to get in. Because in order to get ranked with the SEO, at least like in our company, you probably need some time, like ideally several months, but most likely like a couple of years, right? Yeah. And this is like a huge advantage, because like in marketplaces, on LinkedIn, some outbound, there is really no way to like 100% disqualify competition just by investing money or like resources. Like other guy, he can always send the message and he can always talk to the same lead that you're talking to.
Nice. Yeah. So you mentioned LinkedIn specifically there, and how a lead generation specialist outperforms the other lead generation specialists. So you've hired a team of lead generation specialists previously. Do you still have those people on board?
We do have no one from previous teams. And like, it's very interesting because it's a separate skill set. I'm often against when lead generation people, they're getting pushed into sales roles, because these are way different skill sets. And like good lead generation person may be way different from a good salesperson, especially like in our niche, right? And the thought process I'm coming to the TL, like you can have a process, you can be teaching people, but if you have a nice inflow of lead generation specialists on LinkedIn, for example, I think the better strategy might be just hiring a bunch of them and just testing until you really would figure out good ones. Mm-hmm. And they would work, they would have their own processes, they would work. Then you obviously at the risk of not sustaining this process inside the company, so you won't be able to teach new person like the process that a good lead generation person came in with initially. But a bunch of companies, they work with salespeople like that, like commission only. We hire you, you are good, you stay with us. You're not good, we're essentially rehiring the other person. So I'm coming to this thing that this like just testing and making sure that people perform over time and that like they're kind of naturally good and they're giving results. This is something that I think like is important, because we spend so much time on like teaching lead generation people, and mostly they're just being hunted by bigger companies, or they leave like after some time. So maybe it's the question of retention of talent in the company, but in the same way, I can probably like quantify the people that the lead generation specialists that it was really sad for me to give them away on the fingers of my like right hand.
Right. Do you give them a lot of tools as well to work with? Because I assume they need marketing material to be communicating with these different leads. And your website, you've spent a lot of money on, as you've mentioned. What else would you give them to be able to perform their job well?
Yeah, so we have automation tools that they're working with. They do definitely use ChatGPT a lot. That's probably like one of the thing that they are using like really a lot of time. They're constructing like outreach sequences with the help of the ChatGPT as well. And yeah, I would say obviously the things from the company, like the presentations about previous projects, the case studies, all this stuff they're given as well, and the stuff of the website too. So I would say it's quite standard. One interesting thing, I'm not even sure if I should be talking about. So like once initially when the Chat GPT came out, I gave this task on automating outbound lead generation process on LinkedIn by scraping the page of the lead before the outreach, and then with Chat GPT creating a tailored sequence to his profile and bio,
right,
and sending to him. So my assumption was that like retention in that case would be like way better than just usually. We never really implemented it properly, and there were some issues probably like with prompts. We had to tweak it a bit more, and the data research process was definitely taking more time. So this test was not like very successful to us. But I do believe that this is something that is probably like the closest to have like nice reply rates out there, right? Because currently a bunch of people, they still use LinkedIn in the same, it still works, right? Because it's just human connection at the end of the day. But to be really able to provide a person on the other end with quality conversation and relationship building, that's a task. That's essentially the main task of any like lead generation specialist out there. And yeah, it's quite complex. I do believe that like good lead gen people, the same way as people who can be building funnels, like most important people in the industry, 100%.
Yep. Very difficult to hire for though, right?
Yeah, it's quite insane to find good ones. Obviously, like there are very good engineers out there, like maybe account managers who can like expand projects like crazy, like get like 10, 15, 20, 30 more devs, do like a very good implementation of the product. I'm mostly speaking here about like the forefront of the whole thing. And until you have leads and clients coming in, you have no business, right? So I do agree it's very difficult to hire. And yeah, the person who came to us and set up LinkedIn funnel, we were testing out like tens of lead generation specialists after, and none did something similar. So at least in the effect that it had on the company.
So I think another interesting thing to talk about is you've recently started a YouTube channel on crypto, and that also grew very quickly. You're up to 15,000 subscribers now.
Yeah, it grew quickly, but it had the same fate. So it's always like in cycles. It's interesting because I find this like something that just comes from me, like from personality, just some things that I need to fix. Yeah, it grew pretty quickly. Like obviously in the first couple of months, like no one knew about that. Then there was some exposing happening, and suddenly like all of the market just knew about me like right away. All the influencers, all the people, like videos were getting like a lot of views and stuff. And then I was quite successful with picking the right type of investments and kind of picking the trend way before than most people figure this out, which in crypto makes you money. And this is something I actually wanted to always have in my life, you know, like when you kind of ride with certain events happening way before they're happening and way before that like other people figure them out, in real life, you're getting nothing. If you do that in crypto stocks, you essentially make money on it. So it's very nice. So I was very early on meme coins, probably like 1.5, 2 years earlier than Trump launched his meme coin. So yeah, essentially made a bunch of money there, lost a bunch of money there as well. So yeah, it's crazy, insane story, but yeah, it's definitely a good story to tell, you know.
Good learning lesson, right? And you're still consistent with the videos, and I think that's what matters, right? You're consistently putting out content and trying, and I know you're paying tutors to get education on what to do and what not to do. So I'm sure it'll turn around and become a success.
Yeah, should be. It's definitely like tough in a way, like this resilience in a way, like you just have to do it daily and things like that. And yeah, I'm just trying to do my best and waiting for the better conditions, I would say, because most of the channel like subscribers, I would say they're mostly like in meme coins out there. So this is the part of the market that is like risky. They are present in any situation in the market, right? Like for example, like right now as we speak, like some memes are definitely going up, some memes are going down, right? But the mania phase obviously comes when the conditions on the market are great. And it was a very nice like seeing of the trend in the future. But in a way, obviously, I also got lucky, but I was in these things like way before than most people figure them out.
Right. So going back to the agency, what's your plans for the next year to expand the agency? I know you're focusing a lot more of your effort now to work on the funnels and work on the team and stuff like that. Where do you see it going over the next year?
Yeah, I do definitely see the priority of mine at funnels at this stage. Client relationship, I would say as well, and I do want to build out the proper upselling team and the upselling process. And it's not just about like just selling something. It's about making sure that clients in the from the first contact, they're just receiving like enormous amount of value. So they would want to just expand the team with us. This is something I essentially saw from other bigger agencies out there, but I think it's just a huge thing out there. And if you think about that, like selling in our industry, yeah, it's one thing, but oftentimes people like to test the waters first, right? And then they're eager to expand. So like arguably you might even say that not even selling, but like upselling and properly delivering, because only the proper delivery of the project actually allows you to upsell. Because obviously, if you scrap the project, there is no option, right? So proper delivery over delivery and like great account management and like upselling processes. This is something that, this is something I would definitely want to install better in the company. They're definitely present at this stage. They're just not present as a separate department currently. And this is something that I want to do, but yeah, the focus should be definitely our funnels at this stage. We have some hiccups in the things that we were running historically. So yeah, my goal like right now to improve these things, expand, and stabilize, right?
What technologies do you cover as well? I think it's Node.js, JavaScript you mainly guys work in. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the main stack that we were choosing was Node.js and Java. We historically have, Node.js and React, right? So historically we were a mobile development agency, so we do have a range of mobile engineers in the company, cross-platform, native. And in general, like we did also have an option to apply specialists, either hire them fast, right? Or apply like current contractors that are present on the market to work on a range of different like technologies as well. So we had projects, and we have projects like with .NET, with Java, blockchain. This is something that we are specialized in, and we have a strong blockchain department in-house in the company as well, which are working on quite a few blockchain projects still at this stage. So yeah, I would say the focus is definitely right now is Node.js and React, but we are also like we're trying to apply more focus on these older technologies, like more better technologies from the business point of view, because they just give you better projects. .NET, Java, for example, we just recently hired a CTO whose core expertise is .NET.
When you started the company, where were you hiring engineers from? Did the Russian-Ukraine war affect that? Because I know you're from Belarus as well, and your team's possibly out that side, or they're in Poland, if I'm correct.
Yeah, so this definitely affected us. We moved all the business into Poland because naturally we were working with Western-based clients. We were never taking anything locally, mostly Western Europe and US. I would say that most engineers, most employees of the company are expats from Ukraine and Belarus at this stage. We do have I do think we have a couple of Russian guys as well, but they're essentially also expats at this stage. Most of the company is remote, and I would say the larger part is based in Poland at this stage. So these are mostly experts, and yeah, we definitely did have some issues when the war started, but I would say it could have been way worse than we essentially had it. I would say we kind of went through it, and it was like a second big crisis after COVID. So it was just once in 2 years, it was pretty interesting. And then you might argue that we have this non obvious crisis coming on with AI and stuff, which I don't think it influences the work much, maybe on the side of MVPs as you were saying as well. But I would say that it might be a chance that just on average, it just decreasing the hourly rate for this type of work just because of the fact that more work can be done. So If the supply grows, the price becomes slightly lower.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think with AI, we just got a better tool to create more applications, bigger applications, more complex applications. I don't think it's going to replace developers anytime soon. It's just not there yet. It's great for creating MVPs, and we're seeing a bunch of companies come out and help with that early beginner stage of application development. But once you get into a more complex system that's got millions of lines of code, it's not great at plugging in and understanding the context and knowing if you change something over here, it's going to break something over there, and we need to run the tests and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm not too concerned about that, but it is in the back of my mind as well. How are you using AI in your company?
Mostly to automate certain processes. I would say that lead gen is heavily reliant on AI at this stage. One of the funnel is mostly is AI, at least at the forefront of the funnel. Second one, in terms of the LinkedIn, I mentioned that they heavily use AI in terms of, and this tool that I was essentially explaining, it was like the idea of that for me was the full automation of AI. So like the full automation, because ideally, once you scrape the profiles of the leads and you send your sequences based on that, ideally just have like something I was thinking about, like because AI agents that they were never present at that time when I was coming up with that idea. But with AI agents, I was always thinking, like each new employee, they have to ask about like previous projects of the company. They have to ask about technologies. They have to ask like, what is our experience here? What is our experience there? Do we know this guy? I was thinking, what if I just could get an AI agent, which kind of would just copy like myself, my knowledge in the company, right? And just have it as the one concrete source of information for everyone else. And then like, what are the implementations you can actually do with this thing? So like how well this thing would actually be talking to your leads on the funnels that you're talking to. So this was kind of the vision that I had in terms of like automation, the whole thing. So maybe I would actually come back to that and try to build out a certain version of this thing still, where you just feed all like the bunch of information, your projects into this thing, and it just automates AI. It just automates outreach on certain funnel, right? But this is something that I would really be quite excited to work on, and it just automation of lead gen, which removes like the chance for error and things like that. But at the same time, at a certain stage of the funnel, like human interaction is required 100%, because like you can just not be selling like these ticket of projects without having people to talk to real humans out there. I just think that like maybe that there are in some companies, maybe there are tools, that internal tools that they don't just give out, right? That automate like this part of the process for them.
Yeah. So for the people out there watching this, if I was going to start a software agency, you could start with ChatGPT to respond to leads in a specific tone of voice that gives much more kind of context and depth to the answer, to be able to open that lead to continue the conversation where you're closer into the middle funnel kind of thing. And then it requires some human interaction.
Yeah, I would also say until you actually like do it yourself regularly and really understand what is happening out there and really know it, don't do it.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's easy to get development knowledge now, and there's tons of developers out there, right? It's much more common than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And like you say, it's a lot harder to build a lead generation funnel. So I would recommend anyone starting out there to start with that, right? Get the leads in, and then figure out delivery, or get a delivery partner where you can pay, they can pay you a commission of 15 to 50% or whatever you want to charge. If you can supply leads to a development company, that's gold, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a huge market inefficiency that is present from this point of view. Like I know of some guys in the US, like they just have profiles on this marketplace. They know, I would say they know the engineering like high end, like not very deeply. They just have the funnel working, they know how to work on it, and they're good at sales. They just close the project and they outsource it to existing like engineering teams like in India or some other places, right? Just because of the fact that they're local and they have funnel figure out. Like it's insane market inefficiency, like middle, like probably up to like low six figures in profits for very amounts for very limited for very limited work out there and like almost no responsibility in a way. But that's obviously a very, very nice picture that I'm outlining right there. But yeah, I would say that like funnels are the main inefficiency. Sales probably the second one, but how well you can really sell in like tech products, it's not that like you won't ask like a guy on the other end like what's your emotional motivation and like maybe your father was beating you and that's why you want to build this project that costs like 60K or like 200K or something. That just won't make sense, right?
Right. And have you never thought about building your own SaaS for the company, marketing that and going that direction?
So this thing I just mentioned about automation of outbound with company agent, this is like quite an interesting idea. Like maybe like if I would do it internally, but again, like if it works well, why I would try to essentially expand that to someone else. But this thing is it would be just golden, and it's not just for like because like even if I'm meeting some existing SaaS businesses which I like, I'm trying to talk to them, trying to see how up are they for me, just to test out, just for me to use like one part of our LinkedIn lead generation process to just apply it for their business. If the product is great, if the offering is just to see like what will be happening there. And I think like it's insane funnel if set up, like the knowledge that we essentially possess and have. It's just that like we are in a very, very high competitive environment on LinkedIn trying to sell software development services. But if you're like installing cameras to like local shops or like organizations or something, you have like a really good offer or something, you can easily just fire up the campaign and you will probably be getting some calls. You'll probably be getting some sales right away because the competition is nowhere there, right? And if it doesn't work on LinkedIn, you can do the same thing on email, right? So it's essentially about the offer and like the fact that we are in the very, very high competitive industry, the way we run certain processes, they are way more efficient than in businesses that are not in this high competitive environment, which means that once you apply this process to these businesses, they should just skyrocket, right?
Yeah. I remember you did some in-person marketing as well last year in Dubai. You were going to some events and stuff like that. Did anything ever come of that?
I would say from that, as far as I remember, we had some leads like closer to the closing stage. Good projects, but they never closed eventually. So I cannot say that conferences, they were successful for us. Maybe we were doing it in the wrong way, right? Or like maybe if we would charge like smaller ticket, we will get some. But I do know companies. So like one company that I know, like, and why I have this vision of like .NET, Java engineering and things like that. One of the company I know, they have like 300 people. I think they're based in Estonia. They're doing .NET only. So just this tech, nothing else. And they only work with businesses for like 10, 15 plus years in the marketplace out of the US. And yeah, like these guys, they know how to transfer coding into revenue, right? And these projects, multiple years. Companies there, they're bigger as well. So if you do a great job with one department, other department can rehire you like on a different project as well. So you just endless opportunity for the expansion as well. And one of the funnels that they're running is conferences, right? So they go specifically with some technical person and they get some, but like these are also like very, very specialized, niche down, specific technological conferences, which they also invest into. So I don't see any reason to come into like, like cheap, like free conferences, all like we were not doing this much. And ideally it should be like specialized and ideally it should be niched down. So like the conferences that these guys are going to are probably like niche down conferences in Europe about like certain piece of technology or certain like sector which specifically uses this technology as well. So like just, and they're definitely paid. So by default, like the chance of you finding a proper lead for your business there is definitely higher.
Nice. And are you talking with larger agency owners? It sounds like you are, to understand how they're creating more revenue within their company.
Yeah, I'm trying to do this. I cannot say I do this like often. It just is something like I've accumulated over years essentially. But yeah, this is essentially this is a very powerful thing out there 100%, because you can endlessly spend time testing, or you can just ask, or you can even pay for like consulting if they would be up to. So they will tell you. And like the best thing is still the guy from the company who is responsible for the funnel that they're running. Like it's,
Yeah.
we kind of did that. Like it's something that, it's something that I would probably want to do as well. Just rehire. In some cases, like these people, they are up to like just stay in the current company, just on the consultant basis, share with you like how the funnel works and help you set it up, because they probably like don't understand the value and things like that. But this is something that we were testing. We were only like one successful with that like LinkedIn implementation that I mentioned. But this is something I would definitely want to do more in the near future as well, because like the value for the business of this is pretty much infinite.
Yeah. I'd definitely be up for that as well. If you get hold of someone that's able to reduce the time that we have to learn the funnel or learn building the funnel and create a process for us, I'm happy to spend money on that. So let me know if you do get someone for that. If you had to start again and you can't do the crypto channel and the software development agency, what would you focus on?
As a business owner, because I was thinking just, being an engineer, like high-end engineer in some like nice company in the US, like startup, maybe 2 or 3 jobs at the same time, because with AI, like a lot of people, like it's the issue we're actually facing. Like a lot of devs, they take on 2, 3, in some cases even 4 jobs at the same time. Like and these are just software engineers. And if they take these jobs out of the US, they can be sitting there and making like 30, 40, 50K a month, right?
Yeah.
No hassle, no responsibility. You don't have to have this constant fear in the back of your mind in terms of the company. Do I have money to pay salaries and things like that? You just write code. And most of these companies, oftentimes, like they don't have a lot of work to do as well. To start again, if not crypto and this thing, well, it's hard. Maybe like I will be trying to build some products, like maybe like some SaaS or like mobile, probably like mobile applications. Just try to build like mobile apps and generate revenue from there. Maybe I will become a professional cybersport player, right? Maybe I will become a streamer. I also was thinking about becoming a streamer, things like that. So probably somewhere there. And those activities, they would probably be closer to things that I kind of would want to do more in comparison to the things that I'm mostly doing like for resources and money. And like I kind of like business, 100% I like business. And like agency model is nice because it definitely helps you to go through most of the parts of the business out there. You just have to understand everything, figure out everything. It's like a very nice, great business school if you think about that, right? But at the same time, you're making money if you're successful. So it's definitely nice.
Yeah. So initially, there's 2 areas to focus on: lead gen and delivery. What are the other sections that you'd focus on after that once you got those sorted?
Yeah, usually our sales and project management, and there is also like a specific way that you like automate these things. So delivery is something that should be delegated in the first place, then ideally the project management, then or some people talk about lead gen. I would like to talk on this as well, and the last part is sales, because it's considered to be the hardest one essentially. I would say that in our business, it makes 100% sense to focus on lead gen and on sales as much as you can, just because of the fact that like we're not a marketing agency. Like we're not selling $1,500 a month like some marketing services, right? The ticket is different, and the ticket that we can actually face like can be like hundreds of thousands, if not like millions of dollars out there, which is pretty insane. And so the best salesperson for any company is usually the CEO, the guy who created the company, right? So I would say like in tech business, in this type of business, or in any company where like your ticket fluctuates, right? And it can be like really, really big. Lead gen and sales are always high leverage activities that you should be focusing on. I was neglecting that for quite some time. So right now I will essentially be refocusing on this part and as the main part essentially for my work in the company.
Maybe that's a good topic, man. So you mentioned you made 480K at the height of your agency, and it was up and down the revenue. How do you deal with the different emotions of 1 month you're making huge amounts of profit and revenue, and the next month you're possibly negative, where there's been an issue with the project, and how do you handle that?
So emotions, I would say I was mostly kind of like neglecting and blocking, right? From the point of view of this fluctuation, but it's definitely very untypical for any type of agency out there, because like we could have fluctuations like 50% in the revenue, like up and down, like 150, 110, 120, and then like 200, which is pretty insane, right? And mainly, yeah, it was because of the projects we were working on. And I would just even take like a stable 100K at that time, just stable, like without fluctuations. Or if there would be like any growth, that this growth actually adds to the bottom line, which means that like it won't fluctuate at least like from that point. The main reasons for that is obviously like retainers, technology that we are working with, and essentially things like that, right? We do have very complex relationships with profit essentially as well. I can say that like in the last year, for example, like the company is not making a lot of profit due to certain reasons that we are essentially experiencing at this stage, right? Historically there were different months. So the one that you just mentioned, for example, 480, I think the next months we actually ended up like in 90K negative profits or something, right? The biggest profits that we were able to make ever in 1 month were like 170K. What's interesting, like that revenue there, it was not like that big. I think it was like maybe 370, so it was not like at the top line, right? And yeah, like what I would be doing currently if I would go back, or whatever, what I would be like doing right now as well, is that just don't waste money. Like don't hire all these managers. Just rather take him for yourself. So you would like feel the business. You would understand like, hey, like this is the amount of money that I'm making from this thing. I should grow it, right? Because this was the issue that we were facing a lot. It pretty much was probably like the inability of us maybe to accept like bigger money, because I'm not coming from the first world country, right? Like it's way different. Like the average salary in my country is $400 a month, right? And these are sums that we have never seen. And each and every time when we will get into these sums, like it's almost like subconsciously we're trying to get rid of them like right away. And that's why like we were hiring all of these managers. Probably like some euphoria was present as well. We were spending like money like on marketing, multiple tens of thousands a month that were giving us absolutely nothing. And yeah, like I would just rather take this money for myself and just calm down.
Yeah.
Just see like what works, what's not. Do I really need this person? One guy who's like a multimillionaire of my age, like under 30, he was saying this thing that like it's always the easiest to solve the problem in the business with a new hire, but oftentimes it's like the worst thing that you can actually do. And at a certain point of time, like I remember we were onboarding the engineer, and the guy said like, hey, you have a separate person in the team to create a company email, which was pretty insane, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a great point. You've got kind of limiting beliefs which keep you within a certain kind of frame of mind that prevents you from making more money or less money or keeping that money. It's very difficult to keep fast money as well, which you've seen with the crypto. These are kind of things you need to work through, I guess.
Yeah, that's 100%. And I thought the second time I would keep them. It was not the case, right? So for me, the main thing, yeah, is it's not just keeping the money, but keeping the results. Because the revenue of the company is lower. It's almost like 2 times lower, if actually not, than the peak that we essentially had. So it's always, for us, for some reason, it's always was quite hard to keep the money. And they, like, to be honest, I know like everything obviously about like these situations. It was like a classic shiny object syndrome. Each and every time we were hiring these managers, do this, we were doing these things. They were connected with either us switching to crypto as a shiny object and losing a bunch of money there, and then coming back to the company and working at the company, or just us doing better at a certain point of time where we had a need, or we thought that we have a need to hire these people. Probably at a certain point we did, because more projects that they definitely require more people. yeah, like hiring is definitely like was hard. And you can fix bad hiring if you have like nice processes, nice management in the company as well. And this is something that I mentioned, that I'm a fan of environments where you bring average people there and they actually do well there. They are required to perform and they do it, right? Because in our cases, a lot of like average plus people, even good people, right? They were becoming like lazy, screwed up in the environment that we had in the company. So probably because of it, we were able to grow this fast, but nothing like everything comes with a price, and things that allow you to get fast to a certain level, they oftentimes block you from going even like higher above that, because it would be like insane crazy growth if we would jump like from 500 million to 1 million to 1.5 at that time. And I was under the age of 25 when all of these things like were happening, but many lessons they needed to be learned. And I could have probably done that if I would have been just working more, but we were deciding like shiny objects. We had some personal issues with the business partner. I have a business partner. We're 50-50, like who works more, who creates more value, why we are 50-50 if like I'm working more and I might think that I create like more value, things like that. So it's probably greed and the absence of seeing of bigger vision, right? Things, they definitely could have been better, but the only way to figure them out is just to work more, from my point of view. It's just natural. If you spend more time on the business, you have more ideas, you have more things, you have more time to test things out there. If not, you're just, because even with all these people, like we were pushing the company to a bad state because of the fact that we were not like managing them much. We were not looking much after them, because if we were, there would be no option for them to do the shit that they were doing, right? And we would figure out that they are doing like some worthless stuff, and we would fire them sooner. The reason things like that were happening, and were happening for more than like 6 months in some cases, because we were not present fully. And yeah, they definitely backfired. They were backfiring.
Yeah, I mean, it's super difficult to partner with people on businesses. So you've got that nailed down. Also, like you said, the things that help you grow super fast are also probably the things that hinder you from growing further, right? Because you grew so fast, you didn't have the processes around to manage the team, and then you hired some bad hires.
Yeah.
And it all compounds, right?
Yeah, if you think about that, when we got to 480, it was a team of kids under 23, 24, which is
nuts.
It's like core people at our team, they were also like 21, 22, right? And I taught them mostly, and some of them that they brought the processes from other companies, right? It's a very rare thing out there. And like, we definitely had this entrepreneurial environment present, because like a bunch of people out there, they decided like to steal the model of the company and open up their own. And it was like, we had bad stories. We were figuring out that like core people in the company, they opened up the same company like 2 years prior, for example, and they were still working with us like for 2 years, which probably like partially like natural in the region and for these type of companies, right? But again, to my knowledge, very few of them actually were successful. And those few that were successful, they knew one thing, which is the funnel.
Right. Brilliant. Well, I think we've got everything there. Thanks a lot for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Likewise.
Nice one.